Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I interview an artist by the name of Renate. She's Dutch-born, and her newest book is all about the forgotten women of Paris. These women were muses, prostitutes, courtesans, but they all inspired artists to create paintings and different works of art. Her book explores the lives of these women, and she's also a painter, so she painted these women as well. I can't wait to share that story with you today. So welcome to the show, Renate. How are you today?
Oh, thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. So yeah, I look forward to our little chat.
I really enjoyed looking through your website. There's so many beautiful paintings. Your work is incredible. And what we're focusing on today is your 10th book. You've written another book, 10 books. Wow. And this one is based on Paris, and you actually collaborated with Mario, but you can tell us more about that. But I want to go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about where you're from and what inspired you to become an artist.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from the Netherlands, and as a child, I was always dabbling and always drawing, and it was kind of natural for me. But I did start my career as a secretary because my dad told me so, and but it's all good. There's always something good about it because I'm a really fast typer now, which comes in really handy if you want to write books. So it was a bit of a natural thing for me. I was always painting, and then I went to Italy to learn the language, Italian. And I was invited because this man saw my art, because I was always doing things with art, and I made a mural and things there. And he said, look, you're an artist. Why don't you come to our village next year? I invite you. You'll get a spot at our festival. There's a lot of art, and we'll give you free room. And it was fantastic. I went there, stayed there for 4 years. That's the story. But then I went back to the Netherlands. But it was a super experience. And that was the moment when I really officially became an artist.
I love how that guy recognized. He's like, you're an artist. What are you doing?
You're an artista, he said. And it was like a light bulb. It was so good because I was never really happy as a secretary. And then from then I was happy. Often poor, but happy.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Exactly. That's how it all starts. And talk about how you grew your work and how your life progressed to being a full-time artist.
Yeah, well, for that exhibition in Italy, I prepared, and I had the privilege to go to this, because this might tie in. Yeah, I read some of the questions you possibly could ask, but I had this exhibition in a hotel, and I went to paint in the studio of a very, at the time, known Dutch artist. She was very abstract working, and I at the time was doing more I would call surreal art, so very precise. And here I came with my brushes, my Marta hair brushes, and she said, oh, you go just to the pound shop and get yourself a nice big brush. You have to loosen up. And that was the best thing someone could have told me. And that's where I started loosening up. I created my own style. I definitely feel that I have my own style. I've turned into a fauvist, I think, and it just kind of grew, and it's a development anyway. But I think, yeah, letting go of perfectionism is one of the best tips actually I could give to aspiring artists.
Yeah, that's definitely a great tip, because I think so many people hold themselves back from doing what they want to do because they're like, it won't be good
Yeah.
enough,
Yes.
So, like you said, you just let that
Yeah.
go and just jump
Yeah.
in.
Very true.
And since then, your work has it changed, or how has your work changed, and how have you been inspired in today's world?
Well, the interesting thing is my work has changed because it's a development, but I always have been very strong with colors. Some people say you're really a colorist. And my style, in a sense, hasn't really changed. My colors have, the subject has. So I've been doing, but there's always a little bit of abstract in there in the background. Possibly what has changed is I use a little bit more symbolism, especially for this latest series I created, which is inspired by the book that I'm writing. And that was kind of interesting because the book came about because I often met up with Mario, and he's a good friend of ours, and he was always talking about Paris, and always he's born there, and he had this hobby from a very young age. His mother was working in homes of rich people helping out, and he often as a young boy went with her to these homes of rich people, and he was fascinated by the art on the walls and the African masks, and from then on he had this fascination, or it was just his hobby, his escape, his everything, to write down in little notebooks everything that he could find about art from a very specific period, I must say, from 1850 to 1968, really. And he has so much information on that, and was always talking about it. And I said, you really should write a book about it. And he said, I'm not a writer. I can't write. I said, well, I'll write it for you. And that's how it started. That's how this journey started, really. And it's been,
Wow, that's so cool. And what a fascinating time, like, to be in Paris and
yes,
to be writing about
yeah,
this. And it's such a great
yes,
collaboration.
yes,
And talk a little bit about how you weave the story. So, is it the story of one person,
yeah.
or is it the story of many
No,
people?
it's actually like, it's almost, I would say like a dialogue, but that's a bit of a strong word. But it's really describing my trip to Paris with Mario. About what we do then, we walk through Paris, and so people who read the book will walk with us through Paris, but we go to places that most tourists might not go to. And not all. Also, we also describe places where they will go to, but it's about art. It's about Paris. It's about how art developed from academic art to modern art. So that's the sort of the red line through the book. But then we talk about it. We visit these places. We visit places where these people have worked and lived. And lived. And then it's about women.
And I was reading that it's about the role of women in
Yeah,
art in Paris during a specific
yeah.
period. So, talk a little bit about that. Like, what was the role? Were they more just muses? Were they allowed to paint?
Well,
Like, talk
this is
about
the
how that.
thing. It was still a very male-dominated time, and it was like women had very few rights, and they were seen as almost, you could almost say, abused. That they had so little rights, and like, for example, if the book is not just about painting, it's also about musicians, it's about filmmakers, it's about other types of art, and it's what happened to a lot of these women. They just earned so much less than these men, and they just had to make a living in another way. And many became models and courtesans or even prostitutes. And this is what kind of shocked me when Mario told me all these stories. And then, so the link is kind of made between, so how did someone like, let's say, Degas, get him as an example, Degas, you would say. And So where did he get his models from? How did he work? And did he actually have models? Because I personally don't use models. I never have. So my work is mostly fantasy, although the paintings I create now are paintings and portraits of mostly of these women that we talk about in the book, a number of them, because there's too many. And it's so fascinating what these women did and how they inspired these artists and how they were possibly used and abused, but also these artists couldn't have done what they've done without these women. And one story with Degas particularly sort of got to me. This was quite in the beginning of the book. Is this the most people in the art world know Degas, and most people who know Degas know the statue, the Little Dancer. And that statue, a little girl was posing for that, and her name was Marie van Gotem, and she was Belgian, and she was only 14 years old, and she had to go to this for her old man and pose for him. And this girl also had to sadly become a prostitute. She had no other means of surviving. Her mother was alone. Her father was nowhere to be seen. And so these stories are also in the book. And
so there's many of those stories that you found throughout art history where maybe if the times were different, these women could have been just painters, but it was because of the situations, because women didn't have many rights. And I know a lot of women also learned to paint from being models or lands because they were sitting there watching. And even though they were allowed to go to school, they learned from watching.
Yes. And it's what I found interesting. There's, for example, there were a few that really made the spotlight, so to speak, and there were quite a few actually. But also right now, and this fascinated me as well, there's also quite a few that were famous at the time, but now nobody knows about them anymore. They're never mentioned. It's always about these great male artists, to be honest, which were great artists. I'm not saying that they weren't. And we do in the book describe, or I describe the paintings sometimes and what inspired them. But also, who these women were. But one good example is Suzanne Valadon, which you might have heard of, or people who listen to this might have heard of. And
definitely
Suzanne Valadon. And she was, at the time, she was very successful. She was recognized as an artist. She was a very strong woman who went, for example, to bars when it wasn't really done to go to a bar for a woman. And so she was a strong woman. You could say she was a feminist. And she was fairly famous at the time in Paris, but she had a son. And this son was quite troubled. He had an alcohol problem, which, by the way, is something that was happening a lot at the time. And she kind of thought if he starts painting, he maybe can become sober. And his name was Utrillo. And Utrillo started painting streets in Paris. And he became really famous, so famous that they became rich, bought a chateau or something like that, and went to live there. And their story is fascinating. So these are things that happen in the book, which I talk about in the book.
Yeah, so it's a series of stories. And I love Suzanne. I live in Montmartre and I know all about her. I walk by her house all the time.
Nice.
And we even did a podcast about her because we do another show on Mondays called Paris History of Hemingway. And I mean, she is a fascinating woman. And like you said, people forgot about her. She died alone. Like nobody even came to be with her. And it's like, why did this happen? Why are all these women forgotten?
Yes. And there are so many, and I've no doubt that I'm forgetting half of them. And I'm hoping actually that after the book, I want to create I'm not sure. So when I heard you're calling for people for this podcast, I thought, am I ready yet? Because I hadn't finished my book, but I have now. And what I want to do when the book's finished, I want to create a platform. I don't know where yet or how yet, but where people, if they're interested, can make suggestions so that this can grow and that we can discover more women that were important in this time. So
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, definitely. Because like you said, there's so many that have been forgotten because they weren't even really allowed to be painters. They weren't allowed to be artists.
Exactly.
And there's so many that we need to remember. And what were some other common themes you found while writing about these women?
Well, I presume the common theme is that it was such a male-dominated world, and that the man sort of didn't really respect them, and what that also women writers that are, which I describe in the book, like Georges Sand and Colette. I mean, these women had fascinating lives, and they were known at the time. And I don't know, a common theme is I think that will be it, that they lived in this male-dominated world, and they had to do a lot to be noticed and to show who they were and how they got, to where they got in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to work twice as hard doing the same thing.
Think so. But you could argue that's still the case.
Yeah, definitely. And you've created a series of paintings around the women from the book too. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it started off with the first 3 paintings, because I normally don't use models, and I just felt really inspired by what I was writing. And the first few chapters are also about a little bit of the history of Paris, about the Haussmann story and Napoleon, and then it goes into Art Deco, and so we also describe the different types of art in Paris at the time. And so, especially, it was Art Nouveau first, actually. So when I heard about Art Nouveau and started writing about it, I just felt really inspired, and I created 3 paintings that are actually, so they're just non-existing women, but they became portraits. And I don't know why they became portraits. I paint intuitively, so things just seem to happen in my art. And then I thought I should really honor these women and paint portraits of them. And that's what happened. And some are a bit like The Little Dancer. That's a painting where I put her in a bed of flowers just to honor her. She's a little girl, and I just painted the statue, and did my thing with it. So they're not super realistic portraits. They're very colorful, strange colors, which I used to do anyway. I often had people with blue faces, and that was my style anyway. So they're still my style, but they look at you. And I did that on purpose as well. I want them to look at the people, almost to penetrate them and say, look at me. Look at me. I existed. I'm valuable. And all these women that come after me, artists, models, painters, they're valuable. Look at us. You must see us. That's kind of the message.
I love that. Yeah, like look me in the eye. Don't forget about me. And how do you know when the work is finished? How do you know when the book is finished, when the paint?
When the book was finished was when we reached 1940. That's kind of when the book is finished. So we walked through Paris and went to the Pompidou Museum, looked at some paintings, and that was it. Sort of then the book ends. That's kind of how the book goes. So in a sense, it's also an itinerary. Is that the right word? But when is a painting finished? That's really hard to say. I've been painting now for so many years that I just know when it's finished. When it's finished, it's finished. So I find that hard to say. And it doesn't have to be an exact copy of the person I'm painting. That's not what I'm thriving for. I've never considered myself a portrait artist. Although people who come to my house and see these paintings, they say, well, you can't say that anymore because you made some fabulous portraits. So anyway.
Yeah, these women inspired you to paint faces.
Yes, actually, yes, yeah.
And how would you define creativity in your own words?
I think creativity is something. It's a wide I mean, I've been thinking about this. It's a lot. I mean, cooking is creative. You have writing, music, all these different streams. Whatever you can do is creative. But for me, being creative is that it's always there. Listen to your intuition and just try not to be perfect. That's, I think, the most important thing for me in my creativity. So when I write, it's not a literary novel. It's not about using difficult words to make. That's not what it is. It's almost speaking language. It's easy to read, and that's what I want. I want to tell a story. I don't want to win the Nobel Prize. I mean, that's not the purpose of my book. And it's the same with my art. And I think being creative and I think everybody is creative in a sense. You can be creative in many ways. But for me, it is the knowledge that it never stops. It'll never stop. I sometimes ask myself, will I ever run out of ideas? And I just know that I won't. It's just, I like to be in my head. Let's put it that way. It's so full of stuff, so full of ideas. It's quite a pleasant place to be in my own head. Yeah.
I like that. And where do you think our creativity originates from? Do you think it's just from experiences? Do you think it's something else speaking through us? Where do you think all this comes from?
I think both. But as I said, I think everybody is a creator in a sense, because even if you choose a job like a technician, you have to be creative to get to that point to do what you're doing, or a cook, or whatever you can think of. Whatever you do, there's always some sort of creation involved. Now we're getting to the word creation, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. If you keep it to art, I also teach art, and I love to inspire people to find their own style and really let go, and really not just I don't mean just express yourself and just splash about on a piece of paper or on a canvas. That's also good if you want to do that, but that's not really my style, also not my style of teaching. But I love to encourage people to get in touch with that intuition and that knowledge that you can be creative. It's innate in all of us, but we live in a society where we have to walk in we're so suppressed, if you like, I feel. And it's that therefore the creativity, which a lot of people don't know that they have it, whether that's to create a painting or, I mean, when you look around you, if you sit in your living room, you see a mug with a cup of coffee in it. Someone had to design that mug. Someone had to design your wallpaper, your chair, whatever. It's everywhere. We're surrounded by creation and creativity, and we all have it. That's what I feel. And I do like to inspire people with that.
I love that. And what are some of the resources that have helped you on your creative journey? What are some places you go to find inspiration?
Well, as I said, my own throughout my painting career, but I dare say also my writing career. But my painting career is passers-by are my models, are my inspiration. I'm an observer. I observe people. I observe. And then it just comes to me. So I think it's more intuitive. The writing, most books that I wrote a book about the village I live. I wrote a book about, which is a difficult subject. It's very specific. It's about living with an alcoholic, because I have done that in the past. But I like to interview other people. That's a bit my style. And I interview people who have that experience, 40 people, and then I wrote their stories in a storytelling way. So yeah, where do I look for inspiration? It can be anything. It can be like now, the book that I'm writing, but it can be things that I see in the streets. And for my writing, especially, I see funny things, but I also see sad things. I don't know. Life inspires me, but it can also be online. It can be beautiful things that you see online. I mean, I don't know. There is beauty everywhere. I'd like to look at the beauty, not so much at the dark. So that's
yeah. It's a matter of keeping your mind open and looking for beauty. You'll find it.
Yes, and yeah.
And so I know you're just finishing the book. It's super exciting. Congratulations. And where will people be able to find it and buy it and pick it up?
Well, at the moment, I've sent you a few links. I don't know if you received them. I sent them in the...
Yeah.
So one of the links is also that they can subscribe for a newsletter that will be only about the book. They can also subscribe on my website because I will speak about it there as well. But as soon as the book is ready, I will let people know through my newsletters and also the stage of the book, and possibly asking people for help with the name. That's one of the plans, because I think I would quite like that if people start thinking about it. Right now, I will start talking more about the book. I will start making more publicity for it. But if people want to find me, they just can type in my name in Google and you get quite a few links, and then you can get to my website where most information will be, I think.
Wonderful. Yeah, we'll share your website and all that information in the show notes so you guys can click and check it out. And are there any other future projects you're excited to share with listeners besides this wonderful book?
Well, yes. I want to still create more paintings, because I've got now 16 paintings that literally are of these women who existed. But there's quite a few more that I'd like to do. So that will be an ongoing project, I think. But I do have a next book that I really want to write, and it's a very different subject. So I don't know if you want me to mention it.
Well, we'll keep that one a secret, and we'll have to interview you when you finish that one.
It's not about Paris. It's quite I kind of want to mention it because I think it's
go ahead.
It'll be about euthanasia, and from that book, I'm pretty sure I know what the title will be. Is it a blessing or is it a crime? And my mother had euthanasia already in 2000. And I really want to write about that. So that will be my next book.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. And I think that's a great title too. It's very fitting. Yes. Well, it seems like you're a very busy woman, and I am so excited to read this new book. And we will share all that information in the show notes. And thanks so much for sharing everything today.
You're very welcome. And thank you for giving me this opportunity, because that's fantastic.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.